Hello everybody, this is Kay and welcome to my channel, Junking with Gigi. This is part 2 of a series of videos I'm going to do on altering a book and decorating it as a Christmas altered book junk journal. In the first video, I did the initial altering where I removed pages and decided pockets, and I also put in 3 kind of dividers so that it could be in sections, easy to find sections if somebody wanted to divide their journal up into categories. That was the idea I had in mind with that divider concept. So if you have not seen part 1 of this series, I will link that video below if you're interested in going and watching that first. But in this video, what I'm going to work on is ink all the edges of all the pages and all the pockets, and that's probably going to take like, I don't know, an hour, maybe longer. I'm not sure. I'll let you know. I've chosen 2 different colors of my Distress Oxides to use in this particular journal. This one is Forest Moss, and this one is Frayed Burlap. So I've decided to use the Forest Moss for the edges of the pages and pockets and stuff, and I'm going to start working on that now. But like I said, I'm going to pause the camera and do this all off camera. That didn't take me quite as long as I thought it would. It actually took just under an hour. It's actually a couple of hours later, but I did kind of estimate that time because I kept getting called away. But everything is inked up now. And I believe my next step will be to glue all of my pocket pages closed. So here's the first one, and I'm going to remove my paper clip. So this is just a single kind of side tuck, and what I'm going to do first is kind of glue down this flap. I am going to use my art glitter glue today, just because it's got this precision tip on it, which makes for a thin line of glue. And when you're doing pockets, it takes up less space so that you have more in your pocket. You know, it's just going to be like it. I don't know if I'm making any sense. For this one, I'm just going to put a thin line of glue on this end and along the bottom. Okay. Do a straight line there. And for each one of my pockets that I glue, I'm going to kind of close my book. I believe it was Gail Augustinelli who I got that from. She says if you kind of hold your book closed and kind of pull your page while you're gluing it down, it just works better, I guess. The pages lay down better or something. I'm not sure exactly the concept behind that, but I'm going to do that. Okay, this next one is top-loading pocket. So I'll be putting glue along the side and the bottom. These next few pages are these multiple side tucks, so I'm going to start with this bottom one, and first of all I'm going to glue this flap down a little bit. And then I'm just going to put glue along the 2 edges at the top and the bottom. to put glue all over this page just to glue these two pages together for more support. Since this is multiple pockets, it's gonna be holding more things, which is more weight. These next few pages are writing pages, so I'm going to skip those for now and go on to these two, which is the last set of pockets in this first division of this book. And they're both just going to be side pockets. So I need glue on the top and the bottom of each one of these little flaps. On to the second section. This one is a big side pocket, so it'll just be top and bottom as well. Decided to do it off camera just because, I mean, I think you get the gist of gluing the pockets in place. This was that double pocket, but it also has this big pocket behind this pocket and the side pocket, writing pages, this pocket, this series of side tucks, an upper tuck here, another little side pocket, writing pages, this pocket that has this large back one and then another one in the front. This page, these were a little bit tricky to do because I had 3 pages, so I have a pocket here. Let me get something here. So I've got this pocket here and this pocket on the end of each one of these 3 flips. So that was a little tricky with the glue. And then the last pocket was just a simple top pocket. And that's all the pockets glued in. The next thing I'm going to do in this altered book is I'm going to deal with these pages that I kind of designated as writing pages. And I want to put some lined papers on here to provide that writing space. Now, you don't always have to have lines for writing. Like, for instance, this page, you know, it's only about 2/3 full of text that I want to cover. And I'm going to leave some space, this empty space down here for writing or drawing or whatever the owner of this journal ends up wanting to do. So I'm going to grab my eraser real quick so I can erase where I've written that in that light pencil, just so that was for my own, helping me remember that that's what I set those pages aside for. And what I have here in front of me now is a variety of lined papers that I just pulled out of my stash, in different colors and varieties, and they're not all just lined. This, for instance, is some kind of math grid paper I picked up at a yard sale. Brown craft paper with kind of dotted lines. Here's some type of ledger scraps I have. Here's some more lined paper. These papers right here came out of an old blank journal that I just salvaged the pages out of. This is a dot grid, and then graph paper and lined paper. And then I have a few of these pages which I coffee dyed. So I'm just going to use a variety of these lined papers throughout these writing pages to cover up the texts and provide those spaces. So what I'm going to use here, I need something heavy over here to hold my book open too. I grabbed my tape dispenser just to kind of hold the other side down while I'm working on these writing pages. So on this first one, I want to leave this blank, so I'm just going to pick something out of my pile of papers over here. And I want to kind of tear these down and ink the edges of these as well. So I'm going to start by tearing off this little section of the spiral part that was in the book. Tear that off. And that's gonna barely cover that text. I don't mind leaving this it's a kind of a little coffee grinder image up there. I don't mind that at all. And I'm gonna tear it down to just so it covers that text about right here. I'll switch to my frayed burlap, and I'm gonna ink the edges of this writing space. And I'm going to use a glue stick to adhere these down. I can get more even coverage on something like this type of thing, or collaging. I prefer to use the glue stick because you can get an even coat of glue all over the back side. I'm going to be using my Oohoo stick. And I'm going to pull out my trusty husband's catalog here that I use as kind of a glue book. Open that up. Get glue all over this and cover that page. Like to take, this is a used gift card, and I really like to burnish these down to help them stick good. Looks like I missed a corner up here. Let me put a little bit more glue there. Flip my page over to this back side. And for this, I need a full sheet. So I'm gonna reach over here and grab, I'm gonna see if one of these pieces of craft will cover all of that text. And it will just barely. A little bit of the margin's gonna stick out on either side, but that doesn't really bother me. I'm gonna do that, and I'm first gonna ink this up around the edges and then glue that down. End up doing is going back. You can always cover things up, so I can take a piece of ribbon or a strip of scrapbook paper and kind of run it along that edge, and not only will it decorate the page up a little bit more, but it'll cover up that little bit of text that's poking out. Alright, so that page is done. I'm just going to continue on with this fashion. I may do some of this off camera as well, just because of how much time it takes. So let me see what I can use for this page. That's not gonna quite cover it. What I could do on this one is I could use this to partially cover it, and then, like I said, I can cover the other part of it up with something else. I think I want to tear this down a little top to bottom. Had a little bit of trouble getting that to go on there without any bubbles, but I got it with my by using my credit card to kind of push that out. But I think what I'm going to do is I tore a strip of this this coffee dyed paper that I have, and I'm going to put it along this edge. It provides a little bit more writing space, kind of adds a little something different to the page, and also covers up that text. I don't really need to ink that edge. It's sometimes when you're coffee dyeing, the paper edges will pick up the dye a little heavier than in other spots, and it already looks like it's been inked. So I'm going to grab my glue and just glue this piece down along that margin. See how that's kind of curling up? That's just because of the wetness of the glue. I'm not worried about that, because when I get all done with this today, I'm going to close this book up and probably put it under some other heavy books to hold it down nice and flat while everything dries really good. So I'm going to continue on to the next page. And I've got another full page here, and a kind of a half page on this side. On these two pages, I picked out a piece of that graph paper and then some of this ledger paper that I have. Now, on this ledger paper is really thin, and you can still kind of see the text through it, but that doesn't really bother me. You still have plenty of writing space here and here. All right, so I've chosen these two pieces for these pages, and I'm going to glue those down. I might use a little bit heavier glue, maybe my art glitter glue on that, since this is a heavier paper. But I think what I'll do is I'll finish the rest of my writing pages off camera, and then I'll come back and show you what I've done. Alright, well, I finally finished that. This is actually the next day. I had to stop working on it yesterday and finish this afternoon, but I am finished with covering those pages that I had designated as writing pages. So I'll just flip through. I think you saw the first few that I did. Maybe I'll just flip through and show you those real quick. A little bit of collaging on some of them. Some of them I just used whole pieces. I'm trying to use up that whole pack of paper that I showed in the first video. This is the kit that I was using of scrapbook paper, and it had only 8 sheets of paper in it, but I'm trying to use up the whole thing in this altered book. So some of the scraps I'm using on these pages. On this one, I got my die cuts out and just made some interesting oval little writing spaces. I have a strip of that paper. I kind of collaged with this paper that you see in the background here is some just copier paper that I had tea dyed, and then while it was still wet, I kind of crumpled it up into a ball, gently crumpled it up, not a tight ball, and I set it out in the sun to dry, kind of all crumpled up like that, and once you straighten it out, it just gives it this really cool effect. So I used that in the background, some scrapbook paper, some tea dyed index cards on those 2 pages. On this page I've got like a little notepad that I adhered to that. On this page I have 2 of these little Christmas envelopes with the reindeer on them, and I wanted to use them in this journal, so I put one of them on this page and just kind of made a pocket. I haven't put anything in there yet, obviously. And I just ran a little piece of ribbon behind it to use as the closure, and lined the inside with some more of that scrapbook paper. So I'll come back, tie that back up later. If any of the pages were already blank like this, I just left them blank. You can write on or art journal on a blank page as well as a lined page. On this page I did just kind of some scraps, and I just left them so they could kind of flip up like that, so you can actually journal on the front and the backs of these pieces. And then there's another plain piece, a little bit of collaging of writing spots here and there and here. On this one I kind of made these as like upper and lower tuck spots so that you can pull items in and out like that. And I just tucked a couple of little tea-dyed index cards in there, like so. Plain graph paper. This one I did 2 pieces of that ledger paper, and I just kind of folded them and kind of put them in here overlapping, so there's a ton of journaling space just on this page alone. On this page, I didn't want to cover up this Bible verse, and this, even though this says thanks for the harvest, which is more kind of a Thanksgiving fall theme, I wanted to leave that showing. His goodness and mercy does follow us all the days of our lives. Matthew 26:40. I just didn't want to cover that up, so that's why I did that kind of piecing with those papers there. On this page, I made this kind of flip up, and there's a lined writing space underneath that. On this page, I kind of made this a little tuck spot, so even though this piece is glued down onto this page, we can add something more in that little spot to dress up that page a little bit. I realize that some of these pages are pretty plain looking, but I am not done yet with this. I have more embellishing to come, so this is just one of the initial steps. On this page I made kind of one of these little gatefold pieces, and this just opens up like this with writing space on the inside. And this is the last one, and I just collaged some of my scraps. of paper that I had left over onto this page. So that is it for covering the pages that I wanted to remain designated for writing spots. I think the next thing I want to do with this altered book is the cover, and I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do on that yet, but before I decide that and work on that, I wanted to share something with you. I was doing a little yard sailing a couple days ago, and I picked this book up for $1 at a yard sale, and it's Norman Rockwell's Christmas book, and it is just full of, well, different things: carols, stories, poems, recollections, but mainly what I was interested in it for was all the images. I mean, this is, I think it has 80 or 100 different full color images in here, and I'm going to kind of flip through here and pick out one of these images as point for the cover. But you can just see it's full of stories, and it's got a kind of a semi-gloss text. It's not real shiny, so I like that the pages aren't real shiny. But I'm going to use a lot of this in this altered book. That's really cute. Doesn't look particularly Christmassy, but so I'm going to choose something for the front cover, but I'm also going to be using different pages in here to make more embellishments for this altered book. And I just wanted to let you know that I did look this up on eBay, and it's not a particularly valuable book. There were several listed on there for $4 and $5 plus shipping. I just feel like I hit the jackpot finding this for $1 at a yard sale. So I don't feel too bad about deconstructing it and using parts of it for this altered book. I've chosen this image. I narrowed it down to a few different images, and this is the one I like the best. Kind of a sleigh ride idea in this image, and I'm gonna back this. So I tore it out using actually what I used was one of these tearing rulers that has the jagged edge on it. And then I inked that up, but I'm also going to back it onto some cardstock. I'm thinking about this red. But before I even do that, and I tore it out of one of those music pages from that book. Before I do any of that, I need to cover up this spine. So I think I'm gonna get out my 24 karat gold acrylic paint and paint the spine and just a little edge on the book. So what I've got here is some of this blue painter's tape, and I'm just gonna kind of tape it off, going onto the front and the back cover a little bit, and apply that 14 karat gold paint. Got my book standing up. I put two heavy books kind of on either side of it to kind of hold it up while I paint this spine area, and I'm going to use my Deco Art 14 karat gold and just a little sponge dauber here, and it might take several coats, but I'm just going to start dabbing this on. Decided to switch to a paintbrush here. This is not giving a very smooth finish, and plus I have to kind of get in the groove on the other end, on the sides of the spine area here, so I'm switching to a little bit of a paintbrush here. That's going to give it a little bit smoother of finish. It's a little streaky looking right now, but I think that with several coats it'll be okay. I can still see the printing through this, so it is going to take several coats to get this covered. So this turned out really nice. I ended up putting several coats, probably 6 or 7 coats of that gold paint on the spine, and then I peeled off that tape, and it turned out really nice. It's a couple of days later again. I'm sure you can probably tell that I'm working on this book and these videos over the course of a couple of weeks. I'm actually hoping to have this project done so I can put this in a holiday market that I'm participating in a few weeks. So got that done, and I'm going to do one last thing in today's video, and that is decorate the cover. And I've already got some things prepared here. So what I've done is I picked out an image from that Norman Rockwell book that I showed you earlier, and I matted it onto some red paper with inked edges and kind of some distressed edges as well. So that's going to be my focal point. And then I took one of the little sticker die cuts that came with that paper pack and kind of fussy cut it out. It says Noel here, and matted it onto some more of that red paper. I just realized I need to ink around this edge. And then I also outlined it with just a black marker just to make that stand out a little bit. Let me grab my ink here real quick. And then also I decided I would add a little bit of texture. I just grabbed out some kind of black and gold colored threads, and I'm just going to kind of wad them up and put them in the background just to add a little bit of interest and texture to this cover. So I'm going to ink this up and get these put down on my cover. Kind of had to hold and press this down for a while because I really like this Aleene's tacky glue because it gives you a little bit of time to position things, but it does take a minute for it to kind of adhere down and stay down, so I had to do some pressing and holding for a little bit. And I want to do one last thing on this cover, and that is some gold splatter. So I'm going to grab a piece of my newspaper print here. And I'm also going to grab a couple scraps of paper because I don't want to accidentally get gold splatter on their faces. So I'm just going to put these on their faces, oops, to keep that from happening. And then I'm going to take this is the same gold that I used on the spine, only it's watered down to make it real thin so it splatters easily. And I have this little, I call this my splatter brush. That I'm going to use, and I usually just kind of squeeze out a little bit of it. I'd rather do a little bit at a time rather than getting too much, because I don't like to do like I don't like to get big splatters, and I'm just going to kind of go from one corner to the other Maybe get a little bit more. I really enjoy this, adding a little bit of splatter. I think it adds a lot to a project, and especially like a Christmas theme like this, you know, the sparklier the better. Isn't that beautiful? I really love the way this looks. But I'm gonna set this aside to dry real good, and I think that's gonna be all for today's video. So I'm gonna probably be doing one more video. I think that's all it will take, where I do finishing touches and add embellishments and ephemera to this journal. I am gonna be preparing some of that off camera to just show you in the next video over the next few days. So please stay tuned to part 3, the final part, hopefully, of this series of altering a book, making an altered book junk journal. So thank you so much for watching today, and God bless.